Soren is here. Welcome back to my channel. And this is the third episode of our podcast show. And we have a guest here. His name is Raj. Can you say something to the listener, Raj?
Hello, everyone. This is Raj, and you might be knowing me by the Instagram of 'the.conlang. I'm the admin of 'the.conlang.
Oh, yeah.
And the YouTube channel too.
Cool. Can you say your name over your YouTube channel? 'the.conlang?
On YouTube, the name is same on Instagram and YouTube. On YouTube, it's 'the.conlang, and on YouTube, the same as well.
Cool. Okay, so today's topic is the ancient language. Did you ever learn some ancient
Actually, you assigned
before?
me the topic saying why ancient languages are sexy. That is
yeah, it is.
That's an appropriate topic.
Yeah, today's topic is just ancient languages.
Oh, okay.
So which ancient language did you like most?
Ancient Greek specifically, because if you talk about the Greeks, the Spartans, I really like the vibe and aesthetics of ancient Greek. If you have read Iliad, should I recite the opening lines of Iliad? Would you like to hear that?
Cool. Actually,
it goes.
Yeah.
It goes like Menin Airethia Peleario Achilleus, Alomenin Hemuria Chalios Elge Ethike, Pollas Euctimos Tu Casaidi Proapsin. So you hear that?
Sexy.
I mean, it's really cool, and it appeals to the English speakers as well around the globe, because English is the lingua franca. So if I were to choose any language that would be appealing to the masses, it would surely be ancient Greek, because of the phonotactics especially.
Cool.
And it really sounds savage, I guess. Don't you think?
Yeah. Actually, I did learn the ancient Greek in my college time.
That's really great.
Half semester, I think.
Wow.
But
currently, I'm also doing ancient Greek, and I am really finding it good. It's good.
Cool. Did you ever learn some ancient languages before?
Yes, of course. Some of them are, for example, I paid a lot of time in Sanskrit, learning Sanskrit, Hittite, Tokharian, Old English, Proto-Indo-European. All must have done studies on Proto-Indo-European and Old Tamil as well. So, these are the languages which I actually studied.
Cool. Yeah, you are Indian, right?
Yeah, of course, I'm Indian.
Sanskrit. Did you have some course over Sanskrit in your school or something?
Scrolls, of course, we have a lot of them. We have tons of scriptures and different kinds of writings. The most oldest being the Rig Vedic text. So that's about it. There are a lot of scripture scrolls from medieval era, the Ashoka Empire, the inscriptions, the Brahmi inscriptions on the Ashoka pillars and all that, the Buddhist teachings. So if you are talking about the written material, we have a hell lot of written material available. But I think the sad thing is we don't have enough scholars who can conduct proper studies on it. Like, universities in London are conducting researches on our languages, on our past, but I don't think our government features more educational programs where we have students doing researches about our old languages. I think that's a demerit.
It's like in Chinese school, we literally learn the ancient Chinese, or you can say it's
that's really
classical Chinese in school. Yeah.
Is Mandarin and Chinese two different things? I'm really confused about that.
Well, Mandarin is just like a dialect or a standard one over the Chinese. So
there are a lot of dialects in Chinese, so Mandarin is the one that is standard Chinese, you can say.
Yes.
Yeah, that's cool.
So, for example, in Taiwan, most people are speaking Hokkien. You know Hokkien?
Hokkien dialect.
Yeah, dialect.
Hokkien
Yeah,
dialect.
Yeah,
I have heard another name, Cantonese.
Cantonese. Yeah.
Is it also a dialect or is it a whole different language?
It's we might say that it's a dialect, but it's totally different from the Mandarin. So it's kind of different languages, but in politically, it's a dialect.
Scenario. The political scenario, you got different languages. That's cool. I mean, you guys have different languages for politicians. I guess so.
Yeah. So, which kinds of features in ancient language do you like the most?
The features. Which features in ancient languages do I like the most?
Yes.
Particularly nothing. All kind of languages are more or less same. But one thing that I have noticed in ancient languages is that their ability to encapsulate information. If I could elaborate on that, what I mean is, in the past eras, they did not have a proper, what you can say, storage format for storing the information. I mean, information was vulnerable. If there is a war, and the scrolls are burned down, or there were high chances of destruction of information. Scrolls. So what I have seen is those languages, especially Sanskrit or Hittite, these languages were fashioned in such a manner that they could encapsulate as much information and knowledge possible. For example, if I talk about Hittite, Anitas. Have you heard the old text of Anitas in Hittite?
No.
Actually, Anitas was a king, son of Pithana, I guess. Anita was son of Pithana, the second or first. Okay. And he was the first to give the law and order of that kingdom. The Hittites. So I read those rules in around 32 bullet points. He had covered the whole decorum, laws and punishments for the kingdom. So that's really amazing, which I can find in Sanskrit as well. If you have heard about Panini, so Panini wrote a book, Ashtadhyay, in which he encapsulated in only 4,000 coded words. He encapsulated the whole Sanskrit grammar, which is really vast. So this thing I have found in ancient languages, that they try to preserve the knowledge. Unlike now, we have internet, of course, we have YouTube. Even if we have tons of data, we can simply upload it on a single click. So preserving data is not at all, I think, an issue for us, but it was an issue then. If I take, should I take one more example? It's a really interesting one.
Sure.
If you have heard about Vedas, of course, I think you might have heard about it. So in those times, it is said that Vedas were never written on scrolls. Can you imagine that? I mean, 10,000 hymns were not written on scrolls. They were passed on from teacher to student just by memorization. They used to memorize the whole hymns and then they would pass it to another. So I was listening to an interview where a linguist was saying that when you hear the chantings of Rig Veda, it's just like you are hearing a 700 BC year old person in the same dialect reciting the same stuff. Means if a person was the speaker of an old English, then the dialect and the vowels and everything changed from old English to middle English to modern English. So there's a proper historical change. But in Rigvedic Sanskrit, there is no change absolutely, which is, I think, really interesting, that a language is preserved in such a manner that it did not underwent any kind of phonological change. That's preservation. So that, I think, is really interesting in ancient languages.
Yeah, that's cool. And my favorite part is you said about ancient Greek. Do you know that ancient Greek has a middle voice that is so sexy?
Of course. As I said, ancient Greek is really savage kind of language.
Cool.
Like all the names of the legends like Agamemnon, Achilles, and Pollas and Apollo, Zeus. These names in itself are so savage. It's really intriguing.
True. And as a conlanger, what can we learn from ancient languages if we learn an ancient Greek, and what kind of feature can we learn from it?
In particular, well, I would like to say, first I would like to clear that we should not think of ancient languages as something totally out of the blue from the modern languages. I mean, a language is a language. It's just that the time frame is different. Okay. So if you ask me what can we grasp or learn from ancient languages, I would say that we can learn about the scenario of that particular era. But you are asking me linguistically what we can learn or grasp from the ancient language.
Yes.
Linguistically.
Yes.
Linguistically, I think that ancient languages were much more rich in using variety of phonemes. I mean, in our times, the languages are simplifying in such a manner that even if a phoneme means they are just eliminating all the phonemes that are really tough for English speakers.
True.
Means if a phoneme is difficult for example, in Hindi language, we have got a lot of retroflexes. Okay, whenever we chat, because our country is a bilingual country, most of the people are bilingual at least. I mean, my friends, I have friends who know 4 to 3 languages, but mostly we all are bilingual. So since English is the language of professional language, so we try to simplify all kind of retroflexes. We kind of try to avoid all kind of phonemes that do not fit into English. So ancient languages, I think, gives us a lot of information about the phonemes, their flavors, and how we can enjoy different kind of phonemes apart from what we have just in English.
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of phonemes that were lost. A lot of sounds are lost from ancient to now the modern ones. So I think that could be learned how to use rich flavored phonemes. I would say, like if you ever hear the recording of Hittite language it's available on YouTube. It is really intriguing, and it is really beautiful. All the I think pharyngeal edge, which mostly is available on Arabic only. Pharyngeal edge and the velar fricatives. It's really cool. I think that could be learned from that.
Cool. So also the sound change, I think. The sound changes from ancient languages to the modern one is also helpful in making conlang.
You're asking me what kind of sound changes can we imitate from ancient to modern ones?
Well, I just said sound change is also one thing that we can learn from.
That could be learned, yeah. Yes, this I would like to elaborate a little bit on this. I have seen that as we have in our conlang community, the conlangers really like to develop the phonology, the phonetic inventory. But when it comes to sound changes, their sound changes does not seem natural. Like I read your family tree of Guinea Huab and the Mondial languages, the sound changes were really natural. So this thing we can learn from ancient languages. If we study the sound changes, then we can create or invent the kind of sound changes which look natural.
Yeah, right.
Which have a flavor of natural languages. That is, I think, important. I mean, it's not like that you kept a retroflex T, and in the modern form it just became th. It changed to th. So it's not natural. I mean, you have to have some kind of logic behind it. There's a lot of reasoning going behind sound changes.
Yeah, but actually, even the Netherlands has some unnaturally changes, like in Old Norse, the little sound becomes a z. It's so weird. But that's so cool.
That's your favorite sound change, I guess.
Yeah. And next question is interesting. Were ancient languages supposed to die, in your opinion? You know that in Latin or Sanskrit, they are already dead.
Ancient Greek and all that.
Yeah.
Well, I would say the language doesn't die as long as its speakers are still alive. Think of it like this. For example, if there is a seed, the seed is being sowed and then it reaps flowers and it blooms into a proper plant. It becomes a tree. So if I would ask you, is the seed dead? What would be your answer? Your answer would, I think, it surely would be that seed has transformed or changed or evolved into a tree.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The seed is not dead. For example, if you think about Latin, is Latin dead? So, in one way, yes, it is dead, and in another, I think not. In my opinion, why? Because Latin evolved into Romantic languages. So, we still have the speakers of Romantic languages, right? I mean, the lexicon of Latin is still being passed on to its sister languages, to the daughter languages, right?
Right.
But having said that, there are some languages which could not evolve, could not step into the modern era. For example, Tokharian and Hittite. These languages are completely dead. But if you talk about Sanskrit, no, I don't think it's. We can classify it in this way: completely dead and partially dead. This is something new this is something new that we invented just right now. Completely dead means the speaker are not available, nor the language could evolve into modern times. And and partially dead means the speakers of its ancient form have been erased, but the language has evolved in itself, and it is being used in the modern times by modern speakers. So that would be my approach. Because yes, a language dies, but if it has evolved, then we cannot say that it has died completely. That would be my take. I might be wrong, but that would be my take on this question.
Right.
What's your opinion about that? Are languages dead or not?
Well, I think it's just like a human being, someone born and someone dead. It's a natural process.
Just like that.
Yeah.
This question is really philosophical, I guess.
Philosophical. Cool.
Okay.
So, the following question is: should we revive ancient languages? You know that the more successfully revived languages like Hebrew. Hebrew was dead already, but Israel make it revive.
Hebrew was, I think that proposition was imposed upon the people of Israel, I think. I mean, the Hebrew languages was erasing, was fading away, but the government, I think, took a step and they revived it and they brought it into the professional work. I mean, they made it the most important language for the lingua franca of the people. Right. So I think that's a really good step. I think they can be revived, but you are asking, should we revive ancient languages?
It's a good question.
Yeah, it's really a good question because it's really interesting to hear all those ancient languages again. But my answer would be yes and no.
Yes,
I will explain why. Because reviving, if you see the natural flow of a language is like a river, like a river, never-ending river. It keeps on flowing. It keeps on evolving. So if you think about, if you talk about the Roman Empire, ancient Greek Empire, Byzantine Empire, the kings never took, none of the kingdoms ever took a step that we will revive a whole new language. They have taken step that we will use this particular dialect. I think it might have happened in China as well. That simplified Chinese and traditional Chinese, right? The government took a step to simplify all that Chinese characters. Am I right?
Well, that is not the same case actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I think.
Okay, leaving that example, what I was saying that
Sure.
you can edit that part. What I was saying that a language is like a river, so we should not, I think, change the natural course of the river. I mean, if a language is flowing, we must try to ensure that it does not go dead.
Yeah.
Right. We can ensure that, but we cannot restrict a language. We cannot restrict it from evolving. I mean, that's the law of language. Like if you taking the example of Sanskrit. Vedic Sanskrit was modelized in such a way that it does not undergo any kind of change. I mean, the teachers did not want the dialects, they did not want anything to change in that. Right. But even after all that kind of restrictions, when the language comes into the colloquial form, daily life, it has to evolve. It will surely evolve into different dialects. It will undergo sound changes. So if you are asking me, should we revive? Naturally, that does not happen. But with an effort, I think we can revive some languages. I would be really interested to revive Tokharian, because I would love to hear how the people in that basin, in the east of China, there's a basin where Tokharian belt was present. The people used to speak Tokharian, so I would really love to hear them speaking Tokharian. And because we did not have, there are lots of languages which have not been revived, and we do not have any kind of sound recording. So it would be really interesting. For example, Proto-Indo-European, though it has been scientifically modeled in a speakable form, but don't you think it would be really interesting to hear those people seeing native speakers of Proto-Indo-European communicating in PIE? I think
that would be a nightmare.
Don't you agree with that?
No, never. Never.
Oh, you don't like
I guess. Such a nightmare.
Because I know, because all the recordings that I have heard regarding the Proto-Indo-European, it looks really unnatural, dude. It looks really unnatural.
That's a problem, I think, about the reconstruction. Also, the Chinese reconstruction is also a nightmare. It's also so weird.
That's what I was saying, right?
Topic.
It loses its natural beauty.
Yeah.
So, first, we all being in the interest of languages, first I would like to say that, in my opinion, we should not let any of the languages die from now on. And if it was, I wouldn't say we should revive it, but if anyhow we could hear the old past recordings somehow, then I would really be interested to hear that. Reviving loses the beauty. My take would be this.
Reviving a PIE.
PIE. Actually, we did revive PIE.
PIE is actually, I will say it's just linguistically hypothesis. So
linguistic hypothesis.
Yeah.
There are, you might be surprised to hear that in India a lot of grammarians do not buy the concept of Proto-Indo-European. I mean, they are like, no, that is something which has been created by the Westerners. We do not believe that something like Proto-Indo-European existed in any form or anywhere. I mean, they are like, we altogether have a different kind of family trees running all along. Okay. We are different from Proto-Indo-European. I don't think that. I don't think it's totally unscientific, in my opinion.
Yeah, okay. Okay, the last question is very interesting. So do you think if a language evolved from more complicated to simple or from simple to complicated? And if so, did that mean the people's brain evolved from complicated to simple or from simple to complicated by the comprehension of language?
It's a really interesting question, that if ancient languages were more advanced and it evolved into more simpler form, did our brains too, from a more advanced form, evolve to be more simple? I don't think so. I would repeat that same thing which I told you earlier. Like any language in any point of time. For example, let's take Old English and English, right?
Yeah.
In Old English, we have declensions. We have, I think we have four cases. But in English, we do not have any kind of inflections. We absolutely do not have any.
So it's complicated.
Does that mean
simple.
that? Oh yeah. So does that mean that Old English speakers were more, their brains were more advanced than the modern English speakers?
Really? But actually, you know that in modern English we have future tense, right?
Yes.
But in Old English there is not. There are only present and past. So is that from simple to complicated? Can we say that?
I think that language does not has to do anything with human intelligence.
Yeah,
I will elaborate a bit. What I mean is, if I am just think of it, a person who is living in Anglo-Norman era, Old English era, or Anglo-Norman era, do you think just because he is speaking Old English, his brain would be much more rich in knowledge and intelligence? I think no. Are you getting where I'm coming from, what I'm trying to say? Means if you are talking about the gross knowledge, if you're talking about the knowledge, scientific knowledge, the gross knowledge, if you're talking about mathematical knowledge, I don't think ancient language would be more richer in that and modern would be less richer in that. But if you are talking about linguistic intelligence, then I can say, as I said, that ancient language is very good in preserving data. So, for example, if you take a Sanskrit speaker, right? So the kind of lexicon he might be using would be very rich in conveying meaning.
Oh, yeah, right.
You get that? Would be very rich in conveying meaning, because he would say the inflection is such in Sanskrit that even if he would say a complete English sentence in just one word. So if you are talking about linguistic intelligence, yes, I would say some and some not, right? Most of the ancient languages were really good in preserving the data and conveying the meaning. But as the time has passed on, our needs have been different. I mean, we have YouTube videos, man. If I was to take any particular course, or I was to learn something, I would simply go on YouTube and they would explain me, and I would have enough time to listen to that explanation. So I do not need tough or rich inflectional morphology. I would not need that stuff. So the communication is much, that would be a right word. The communication is much more easier, simpler, and much more, I won't say effective. It depends on the person to person. But this is for sure that the medium of communication, the way of conveying meaning, is much more easier and simpler to grasp in today's time. But for example, if you were sitting in 1400s or 1600s and you had to make a new language, just take for example Tolkien, man. From where did he study? He studied books. He had to read a hell lot of books, and he had to interpret that. There was no one to explain it apart from professors. So in past era, you had to be that intelligent enough to decode the meaning, to understand the morphology, to learn the inflections. So if you're talking about linguistic intelligence, I would say that ancient languages, ancient speakers were much more richer in that. But if you are talking about the modern speakers, I think we have evolved with our different needs. Our needs are totally different. I mean,
Yeah, that's a point.
The biggest problem that we have, the modern people we have, is that we do not have enough time. So we cannot sit for a whole day long just to understand the simple grammar of an ancient language. We can simply Google it. We can simply use YouTube. So we do not need that stuff. I think we can say that ancient speakers were much more linguistically richer, more intelligent than the modern speakers.
Oh, that's interesting. That's one point I ever heard. Well,
would you agree with that?
Yeah, it must be good as a hypothesis, as a theory.
Yeah, of course, theory, because I'm not speaking. I mean, whatever I am speaking is not scientifically proven. It's just my hypothesis, just my observation.
I can understand. Well, my opinion of this question is like with no. So once I have heard Noah's stream, and he said that the processes of language from complicated to simple, and from simple to complicated, are parallelly exist. So something is from simple to complicated, and something is from complicated to simple.
Complicated to simple.
Yeah.
That's what I think. That I was hearing to an interview where David Peterson was the speaker. So one of the students asked him that, how do you think, means he was talking about some sound changes.
Yeah.
So he was telling that when he first draws the phonemic inventory, he makes that, means his process was first he creates the language, then he makes it evolve, means there's first form, then he again evolves it to create a second form, means to reach the final form he has to go through 3 or 4 layers. So the student asked, is there any layering in, like we can say that Old English and Middle English, so are they both totally different? So his answer was that between Old English to Medieval English there can be thousands and millions of different forms, because the language is evolving daily. So even if there is a small sound change, it's again a completely different language.
Right.
It's true. Right. It's like between 2 points we have a multi-layers. We have tons of layers, because every day it is continuously evolving. So if you would say that who is much more intelligent, the one who is speaking Old English or the one who is speaking Middle English? So the answer would be simple, that none of them. It's just language evolving from one point to another according to the need. So it has to do nothing with the intelligence.
Yeah.
But I think it surely gives you the cultural flavor. For example, if I had to say to you good morning, if I was in Anglo-Saxon era, I would say God named Mergen. Right. So that might give you a flavor of that. Oh, Salum and Raj are living in a clan in a forest. But if I was from Shakespearean, if I greeted you in Shakespearean English, God gave ye good morrow. That would give you a more elegant feel. And in modern times, I would just say, yo, Salum, what's up? It would give you a different feel. It has to do nothing with the intellect of a person, I guess.
So it's from the social context, I think.
Yes. I think your question was basically, is human intelligence affected by this change in complex to simpler form?
Yeah.
So what the answer we arrived on is no, I guess.
Yeah. Same as mine. Mine is that human beings are always so dumb.
Yeah, absolutely right. Because we are simply repeating the same history, man. We had wars, we had famines at that time. We had wars and famines and conflicts this time too. So how can we say that humans are not dumb?
Yeah, so I think it's all from these episodes. Do you have anything to say to the listener again?
Oh, before that,
Yeah.
as I arrived on that this war and thing, if you say that ancient languages were much more complex, so okay, we had wars in past. But if you say that complex languages change to simple, then our mentality, our thought process would also have been changed. But it has not changed. We still are that complex being as we were 1,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Won't you agree? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
True.
you asked about what would I say to the listeners. I hope that whoever is listening to our conversation, this I think 30-minute long conversation, might be really interested in language. So I would highly suggest to subscribe to Salum the Conlang channel on YouTube as well as mine. And please do read different languages, learn different languages. I mean, languages are fun. They are each new language gives you a different flavor, a nice phonetics. So I would say that.
Yeah. Also remember dazzling.
Dazzling?
Yeah. Your YouTube channel, right?
It's actually Desi Conlang. I have given a diacritic of dental D, not alveolar D.
Okay.
I mentioned it, Desi Conlang. Desi word is an interesting. It means anything that is from the colloquial India is Desi.
Okay.
Well, we covered a lot of questions.
So, for the notice that you can also hear the Salum and the podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify now, and Google is also available. So that's all the episode done. Have anything or saying goodbye to our listener, Raj?
Okay, then it's time to go to depart. And Salum, thank you for inviting me to this podcast. It was really a fun talk. I really came up with a lot of different answers for the question. Really interesting answers. We both, I guess. So it was really a fun time talking to you. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's it. Elvis.